Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Friday night, Mike Norvell, Florida State landing their second transfer portal commitment of the day in former Coastal Carolina defensive lineman Deamonte Diggs. To the Florida State fans, I apologize for not getting on this late Friday night, largely for two different reasons. And I think most importantly, I had to take some time and go back and watch this kid a little bit more. He's got a fascinating story. He committed to Youngstown State in the 2020 class as a 6'5", 210 pass catcher. And he was going to play either wide receiver or tight end coming out of high school. He makes the transition to the defensive line, starts to break out a little bit, transfers to Coastal Carolina for the 2024 year. The Coastal Carolina film, it excites me for a couple of different reasons. I think one, and most importantly, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks on the line of scrimmage, on the defensive line under this Tony White defense. Versatility is a premium. The base 3-3-5 for Tony White, that's very important. But Tony White's a defensive coordinator that's going to throw a ton of different defensive fronts at opposing offenses. In order to throw a lot of defensive fronts at somebody, you got to have guys that can play a lot of different roles on the defensive line. Damonte Diggs is that guy. I mean, he's a guy that plays the 3-tech. He'll play out on the edge as a 5. There are reps, especially in that Temple game, where he's playing at the nose or the 1-tech as a 6'5", 260-pound body. And it doesn't look like he gives up any sort of physicality. This kid has some power in his hands. He can do the dirty work on the inside of the defensive line. He can be a heavy-handed edge rusher that sets the edge and is a hammer in the run on the edge. Versatility. He's a guy that can hold up in the run game. Those are the boxes that we want to see checked for the Tony White defense. When you want to run that 3-3-5, your defensive linemen have to hold up on double teams. The whole point of this 3-3-5 is, hey, we want to get a lot of speed on the football field. We want to eat up our double teams and let our speed at the second level kind of funnel to the football. It doesn't work if you have defensive linemen that are getting blown off the football and offensive linemen working up to the backers. You got to have defensive linemen that are strong at the point of attack, and that is exactly what Damonte Diggs is. A guy that can play the 3-tech, can play out on the edge. I don't think he'll play anywhere more inside at the power 4 level just because he is only 260 pounds, but he can hold up at a lot of different spots. That's what stands out the most, and he's getting better as a football player. And this is a guy that, again, a couple of years ago, he was a pass catcher, and he's made this transition. He's transformed his body. So although he's going into his 6th year of college football, he's a guy that you look at and say he's still kind of getting better as a football player and still learning the defensive line. Really big fan of this one. Want to get into a little bit of the film, talk a little bit about where he fits in the Tony White defense. Now, before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Florida State fans. It's been a busy last couple of weeks, talking this coaching staff, talking the new players coming in. Y'all have shown a ton of support. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. It starts with what this guy does against the run. And what I love is there's a lot of intent with Mike Norvell, Tony White, Coach Terrence Knight. Hey, what do we want on the line of scrimmage for our defense? You look at a guy like Deontay McCray coming from Western Kentucky. 24 run stops for Western Kentucky in 2023. You look at a guy like Damonte Diggs, 18 run stops with an average depth of tackle of 0.3 yards down the field. So not only is he very involved stopping the run, he's making all his plays at the line of scrimmage or behind that line of scrimmage. He's creating some negative plays, something Florida State did not do well enough last year. We want to get guys that can stop the run, put teams in these 3rd and long situations, and that's where Tony White, as a defensive coordinator, is going to cook. You look at Tony White, one, historically very, very good defenses on 3rd downs. That's where he really wants to get aggressive and start dialing up pressures from different spots. But you can't be aggressive on 3rd downs if you're letting teams be in 3rd and manageable. That favors the offense, not the defense. You want to be in 3rd downs that are favorable for a defensive play caller. Those are those obvious passing situations where you can really get creative. Guys like Damonte Diggs, guys like Deontay McCray, although might not be the premier pass rushers, if there are guys that are going to get you in those 3rd and long situations. And at the end of the day, if you want to sack the quarterback, you better start creating some of those second and third and longs, because that's normally where the sacks come. When you know they're throwing the football, you can pin your ears back, get into your pass rush sets. That's what I think Damonte Diggs helps bring Florida State. You get into a little bit of the film. The film study for him is really, really fun. One, he's not hard to pick out because he was playing most of the season with this massive club on his right hand. So he's playing right in here at the three tech. And again, this is 260 pounds, and he's playing a lot on the inside of the defensive line. And what stands out to me is that he doesn't seem out of place. He's 260 pounds. He looks small to be playing on the inside, but the power does not lack. I mean, he's very, very good at one, using some of that length. Just this tackle trying to move him off the ball. We very, very powerful in the hands. And second, you don't get 18 run stops if you're not good at getting off blocks and making plays. That's exactly what you see him do. Get off the block, shed the block, make the play right at the line of scrimmage. And this is, at first, when I looked at some of the PFF numbers, I'm like, he seems awfully small to be playing that many snaps on the inside of the defensive line. Then you turn on the film and say, I'm just not all that concerned about him holding up at the three tech for Florida State, because it's all over the film at Coastal Carolina. You continue to work through it. This is a really good rep. It doesn't hurt, or it doesn't help that his buddy on the other side is getting kind of moved off the ball. This is another example that I should point him out here. He's working on this left guard. This is what you want it to look like. I mean, we're winning at the line of scrimmage. We got hands like they're cinder blocks. And he's just putting this offensive lineman right into the backfield. He's getting off blocks and making plays. Now, this one, he doesn't make plays because the linebacker fits the run bad. That ain't on Demonte Diggs. I mean, that's a really, really good rep from the inside. He's very strong at the point of attack, and in the pass rush, he can give you some problems. He can be a pocket pusher, and he can use some of that length to get his hands on some balls. And what happens here, and you get your hand on a ball, pick six. I mean, again, going back here, this just starts with the power that he has. I mean, he's a guy that is kind of a wrecking ball on the inside. He is a disruptive force to me. This one makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that's going to play all over the defensive line. Tony White's going to be able to be really creative in terms of where he wants to align Damonte Diggs. And you take a look at Florida State's transfer portal class, and we talked about it yesterday. It's not super flashy. I mean, you have guys like Deuce Robinson that we're really excited about. That's a flashy one. But a lot of these guys, I mean, 13 total transfer portal commitments, 7 of which are on the line of scrimmage, either on the offensive line, which I think they brought in 4 bona fide starters on the offensive line. They also have a lot of pieces coming in on the defensive line, and they kind of balance each other out, right? Damonte Diggs, hammer against the run. You look at a guy like Deontay McCray coming from Western Kentucky, 6'4", 283, really good against the run. And then you look at a guy like James Williams. And James Williams, although not great against the run, is one of the better pure pass rushes that we see in the transfer portal. And so you're getting a little bit of that mix that you're looking for on the defensive line. If you're a Florida State fan, this program's flying under the radar. You know, last year they made a lot, and we talk about this all the time, so I'll keep it short. Last year, we talked a lot about Florida State making some flashy ones that weren't necessarily proven commodities. It's less flash, a lot more substance, and I think that's what Florida State needed heading into 2025. We'll cut it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Hopefully y'all enjoy your Saturday morning. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.